Any project, I don't care what it is. I don't care if you're building a bookcase, you're building a clock, you're building a step stool. Squaring the board or squaring the stock is always going to be like part of the first things that you're going to do, okay? Now, you may not have to glue up pieces like I did last time, okay? Last time I showed you how to glue up some oak. Remember, we planed it. I needed to come up with a size that was at least 9 by 9. And right now these are sitting at about 10 by 10 because I made them 1 inch bigger for my rough size, okay? All right? So, squaring the board. What we're going to do, there is a kind of a sequence, okay? Look at number 3. Number 3 says plane one edge, best edge on all boards. That is step number 1 in basically squaring a board, okay? So, and if there's, this is really important. I want you to get this fixed in your mind, okay? Does everybody understand what edge, face, and end means with lumber? Does everybody understand that? What would this be? This face. This is a face. This is the other face. Okay? What would this be right here? With the grain. What would that be? Edge. Okay, we got 2 edges, 2 faces, and then the easy one. What's that, Jamie? Well, the grain, it's at the what? What kind of grain is that, guys? End grain. End grain. Okay, when you've sanded wood, what's the hardest to sand? End grain. End grain is really hard to sand. It's much more resistant to abrasion. The edge sands pretty easy. The face sands pretty easy, but the end grain is much harder. And when you turned things on a lathe, now you guys probably didn't turn end grain when you were doing a pen, but if you're doing a bowl, you have to turn end grain. You'll find out that it wants to chip out because it's much harder, okay? All right, so first thing we do is plane an edge, okay? What's the next thing? Step number 4 says rip all boards to correct width. Okay, so we would plane the best edge. We'd rip it on the table saw. Now, when we say ripping, Tyler, is that with the grain or across the grain? With the grain. Ripping is with the grain. That's another term you've got to know. Okay, cross-cutting is cross-cut across the grain. Ripping is with the grain. And you got to do these in order. Okay? All right, number 5 says cross-cut best end square all boards. So you're just going to cross-cut one end as close to the end as you can to get it to make sure it's square. And then finally, you cross-cut all boards to the correct length. And it says use a clearance block if possible. Who knows what a clearance block is? Mark, I bet you know what a clearance block is. Okay, if we have to cut a whole bunch of boards on the sliding miter saw to the same exact length, what's an easy way to do that?
Stack them up.
Yeah, not stack them up. Mark?
You measure it out and then like you screw a piece of wood down where the measurement is so you can just set it up against there each time and know that the measurement is correct.
Okay, very good. He's right. He said you measure the first one out. Then he said you screw a block, a scrap piece of wood, okay, but instead of screwing it, we'll probably clamp it. We'll clamp a block of wood over there so that all we got to do to get 9-inch every time, we bring that up against that stop block and cross-cut it to final length, okay? All right, now, because I glued these a little bit, I've got 3 pieces of wood here, and I've got a narrow piece in the middle of all of these. Would it be a good idea to like alternate where that where that piece is in my layers? Would that be a good idea to alternate that? It would. Okay? Listen to what I'm saying. So instead of gluing these three, when my clock is all done, these are going to be glued together, right? Okay? It'd be best if I could offset that little glue joint just a little bit, okay? So that we don't have that joint on top of the next one, okay? So it'd be a really good idea to offset where those are edge glued. It's going to make it a lot stronger, okay? So when I plane this, I'm going to keep that in mind because I'm going to plane one edge. I'm not going to have that right in the middle. It's going to be offset on each board, okay? All right, so what tools are we going to need?
Safety glasses.
Got to have safety glasses. What else? Ear protection, possibly. What else? Well, we need the sliding miter saw. What machines do we need? Plane one edge. What do we need for that? Joiner. Okay, joiner. And then we're going to rip it to width. What are we going to use for that, Ernesto? Ripping with the grain. What machine do we use? The table saw. Okay.
You guys forget all this from construction 1?
The table saw.
Oh my gosh.
And then to cross cut it to length, Tyler, what are we going to use? What machine? No. All right, get out a pencil. We're going to write this down.
My God, you guys.
We're going to
is all
write this
stuff you should
down.
know.
Okay. Number 3. Write this down. Get a pencil out quickly. Number 3, plane one edge. It doesn't say which machine. Which one are we using, Seth?
Planer.
Jointer. It's not
Edge.
the planer.
It says edge.
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 This is an edge. This is an edge. We use the jointer to plane an edge.
I think what's confusing them is that you're saying plane, and so they instantly think planer.
Yeah.
I was thinking of
Yeah. Well, you're planing, but you're
Yeah.
planing the edge,
Edge.
on the jointer. Planing is a verb. Okay?
Yep.
It is a verb, just like sawing is a verb.
It's just how they always go on the lathe, and they say, I'm lathing. I said, no, you're turning.
Yeah. Okay, so number 3 is the jointer. We're planing one edge, and I understand where you got confused on that, okay? Number 4, rip all boards to correct width. What machine? Table saw. Okay? Number 5, cross cut best end square all boards. What machine?
Cross cut. Say it again.
Nope. Sliding miter saw for number 5. And you're just doing one end as close as you can to get a nice square cut. Okay? And then finally, number 6, cross cut all boards to correct length. Use a clearance block if possible. What machine? Sliding miter saw. Good. Okay? Okay, we got the machines. What tools do I need to do this properly? How about a measuring device? Okay. Now, guys, I got to tell you, I do not like these. I do not like these aluminum rules, okay? The ends are soft metal. They're deformed. They're hard to measure with, I think. The letters and the lines have rubbed off some. Okay, and those are just painted on. Now, this is what tool is this? Steel rule. These actually are, they etched or engraved those lines on there. Okay, this is much more accurate. So use a steel rule, or you can also use, if you want, tape measure. Okay, tape measure. Now, a while ago, we talked about, I think with this class, a long time ago, you know how these tape measures always have a loose end, right? Why do they have a loose end? Should we try to tighten that up? Why not, Brian? You are right. I did talk about this a while ago. Okay, if I'm measuring a board like this, I pull that end should move about a 1/16 of an inch because this piece of metal is about a 1/16 of an inch thick. Okay, so when I measure the outside measurement, I pull this. Okay, this one is at 10 inches. If I was measuring something that was an inside measurement, such as, let's say we have this door frame, and let's say that we wanted to measure that inside measurement, okay, then that end pushes in and it gives me an accurate measurement. So those ends should be loose, okay? And by the way, anytime you use a tape measure, don't let it slam shut, right? Because it breaks the spring inside there, okay? Okay, let's go over to the what machine? I'm ready to square my board. So what's the first step?
Bandsaw.
Joiner.
Damn.
We're not going to use a bandsaw ever to square a board, guys. It doesn't do an accurate enough cut. So come on over.